Black Dawn and Mac, and today we got a special guest, my brother, Mr. Chabot, Mr. Mark Chabot. Like, now listen, serious Marine, serious service member. We had that discussion last week or 2 weeks ago when we talked about veterans and what veterans need and all that. So we're going to be talking about that with him, and we're going to be talking about some other things. So without further ado, let me bring on my brother, Mr. Mark. There he is. What's
What's
happening?
going on? Hey man, I'm with it. I'm with it. Appreciate you having me on, my man.
Man, I appreciate you coming. You know what I mean?
Podcasts are always better with family and friends, man.
Oh,
Always
all
better.
day. I totally agree. I wish more people would do it. Honestly, I wish more people would have other people on their shows because it helps podcasters like get to know each other and all that other kind of stuff. We just fortunate enough that we know each other outside of podcasting, so that's cool. You
Yeah,
know
I
what I
feel you
mean?
on that one, man. Yes,
So,
sir.
what's been up? What's been new? Tell us. So, let's start
Oh,
off introducing yourself, who you are, what you do, what you're about, what your podcast about. I want to make sure people come in and tune into that.
all right. Mark R. Chabot, born and raised in Attleboro, Massachusetts, suburbs in between Providence, Rhode Island, and Boston, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Thoroughbred New England guy, diehard through and through. Boston, everything. That's how I roll. Joined the Marine Corps at 17 years old, spent 27 years, 5 months, and 18 days on active duty in the United States Marine Corps. It was my honor and privilege to serve. Retired out in 2020. Currently work for the federal government down around Marine Corps Base Quantico. Also do a podcast on the side called Left, Right, Left, Keep Moving on YouTube. Talk a lot about veterans issues, share stories of things that will be helpful to other people. My son is on the spectrum, so do little shorts of him. And I just have a good time on it. The cool part about having your own channel is you can do whatever the hell you want. You don't got to stay niche oriented. If you're feeling it, you publish it, and you just keep on going and being consistent.
That's what's up, man. Um, so let's talk about a little bit about why did you go into the Marine Corps? Was it like a
Um,
choice that you would like? It was one of those things where you say, I have to go. Was it just a way to escape, or was it just like duty and service? Like, yo, I gotta serve my country.
Shon, I wish I had this glorious story for you that was rich in lineage and history of military service and stuff. Don't get me wrong, males in my family did serve, but I left because I was just a very very troubled youth. Wasn't doing good in school. I was on the wrong path. I didn't have a lot of positive male role models in my life. Didn't have anybody to kind of show me the right way. So, like, true story, man, all facts. My mom's coming tomorrow, but she told me when I was 16 years old and I wasn't doing shit. She's like, hey, man, what are you going to do with your life? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I guess I'll just find a job and hang out. She's like, bullshit. She's like, you better take it. She's like, that door is going to hit you in the ass when you turn 18. It's going to hurt. She's like, it's
Right,
going to hurt bad. So you need to figure out something to do. And then just things just kind of lined up from there, man. And talked to a Marine recruiter. Figured, shit, if anybody needs to get their ass whipped and get disciplined, it's this guy right here.
right. Dang. So that sounds like my dad used to beg me to go to the military. He'd be like, "You need to go in and serve your country," and I'm like, "Man, I'm out here in these streets. I need to
Yeah.
go and do this thing out here with these boys out here, man. I'm chilling." But I kind of wish I did do it because now,
I uh, I'm so grateful for it, Sean. I tell you, man, it set my journey on a whole different trajectory. If any younger cats out here happen to tune into Sean's podcast, I would tell you, regardless of all the fodder that you see that's going around on media, on the news and stuff, the military is still a very noble thing to do, and it's important that we keep on paying forward that blanket of freedom.
hmm
Because if we're all telling each other, don't go, and you don't want to serve under this administration, you don't want to do this, then we're going to have a recruiting crisis. And the next thing you know, we're weak and we
right.
won't be ready. And
Well,
China will always be ready.
that's right, and I like that the Secretary of Defense wants to bring it back to war fighting. I like
That's the name of the game.
I like that he wants to do that. You know, and with that, I wanted to ask you, like, was there like a mental shift that you had to do, like your first 6 months in the Marine Corps? Was there some kind of mental shift from like what you were to what you were gonna become.
Yeah, you always kind of gravitate back towards what you know. So, at first in boot camp, they do a good job of breaking you down, and then building you up and making, a basic Marine. And you leave there sharp, man. You got manners, you're professional, you want, you're all good, man. You're on that path. But then slowly but surely, as somebody doesn't have their foot up your ass and you start getting more liberty, more freedoms, you go back to what you know. So
Right.
my first, I was a good Marine. I was good at my MOS. That's my job for the viewers. I was very good at my job, which was amphibious fighting vehicles. Um, but on Liberty, when I had time off, that's where I really struggled. I continued to make a lot of poor decisions.
Hmm.
I got in trouble. I got in trouble for drinking and driving when I was 20 years old as a corporal. Just getting into fights, doing stupid shit out in town, going to Myrtle Beach, getting thrown in the drunk tank for a night, just doing not doing what I need to do. And I don't know, man. Maybe like once I changed duty stations and left the Fleet Marine Force and went up here to Virginia, where I worked at a program office in Woodbridge, things just started to click a little bit better. I got around more seasoned Marines,
Right.
more colonels, more lieutenant colonels, more staff NCOs. And I said, man, like, this is my last shot. Like, I cannot screw this up again. Otherwise, they're going to punt me. And if they punt me, I'm going to be, I'm going to be, holding a bag, and not knowing what to do. So I said, I need to buckle down and figure this shit out, mature, make better decisions. I met my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and things just started going in a better direction for me. But I was all fucked up at first, brother. I was jacked up, man. I'm telling you.
Right.
I just tell the truth, man. Like, I'm not embarrassed about it. Like, I needed those things to happen to me because there were lessons I needed to learn at the time. I had to get held accountable for something. Because if
Right.
you don't get accountable for things, then you're just going to keep on repeating that behavior.
Right. And one of my favorite videos, and I keep it in my on my YouTube channel, is I love Black Friday. I love that when they're in there and they be like 10,
Yeah.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 0, dive, 0,
Yeah.
freeze. Oh, I love that. That's my favorite. I have to
It's
send
funny,
you the one I
Shon?
have.
If you look over my right shoulder right there, that thing that looks like a toilet bowl, that's
Right.
actually a senior drill instructor cover block.
Oh,
So what
really?
you're talking about, I was a drill instructor for 3 years, and then before I retired, I was actually the senior enlisted supervisor of West Coast Boot
Oh, that's dope.
Camp. Hey man, Mr. Football Bat.
That's
Sometimes,
so
man, it's
dope.
like it's crazy.
I'm,
I
I'm
can't.
telling you, one of my
Yeah,
all-time favorite video. After the show, I'm gonna send you the one that I have. Oh my goodness, yo, all-time favorite, man. That's what's
yep,
up.
yeah,
We
yeah,
gotta
man.
get you to do some of that drill sergeant stuff in here, man, before you dip. That's
drill
what's up.
instructor, drill
Oh,
instructor.
let me
Drills
excuse my
out with the
language.
army, man.
Drill instructor. Yes.
It's all
I,
good, brother.
you know what? You don't realize how different the terms are from like the Marine Corps, the Army, the
Yeah,
Air Force. There's things that are different. Like in the Air Force, my dad was an Air Force guy, so we used to say
yeah.
BX. You know what I'm saying? And then most people
Basic,
say
like base
PX.
exchange, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a
Yeah,
base
post
exchange, and
exchange, but yeah,
and stuff like that, like 7 Day Store, Class 6. There's different
yep,
names for different things like that, so you just never really
that's right.
realize how different it is. You know what I mean? That's really cool.
Hmm.
I love it. So I wanted to get into like combat and leadership, right? So when you were first deployed, was there a single event that kind of changed your perspective on life? And if it's too personal, please let me know. Okay,
No, it's
so
all
I
good.
always want to make sure
Yeah,
that I'm respectful of every guest that comes on, and so if I ever ask you something that's and you just say, "Yo, bro, I ain't trying to talk about that," and I'll be like, "Okay, cool, that's what's up. We move on." So,
no, I appreciate you saying that, Sean. One of the things that's it's healthy, even though sometimes it can get a little bit painful talking about it. It's helpful because every time you do a set and rep with it, it's like a little bit of healing, within yourself.
mm,
So I'm okay. I'm okay with sharing and talking about it. Um, yeah, it's real. To be quite frank, you train, so at that point in my career, I'd been training for 10 years, like you're going to go to combat, and then you actually are in Kuwait, waiting word from President Bush to decide whether we're going to go through the breach or not. And before I talk a little bit about that experience, I just wanted to say this that there's a lot of poo pooing on going on about Iraq and Afghanistan, and the why behind it, and it was this or that. All I can say is this: is that the troops didn't have anything to do with those presidential level decisions.
Right.
None. We volunteered and stuck our right hand up, to go and serve in any capacity, regardless of what it is. And those are the circumstances. And our job is to follow orders. And our guys followed the orders that they were given. We were told to invade Iraq. We went over there and invaded Iraq because that's
Right.
what the hell the military is there for.
Because
So
that's
whether
what
you
they
liked
gave
it
you.
or not,
Right.
but that's an important point, I think, because some dudes struggle with that. They do. And they shouldn't struggle with that. You followed the orders that you were given. Now, it is a very humbling experience when you are taking fire and then you are returning fire and then you're calling, for air fire and air support and things are going exploding and things are moving at a rapid pace. And unfortunately, civilians are casualties. You have
Mm.
innocent people that are casualties. You have
Right.
your own Marines and your own sailors. And at the battle I was in, the Battle of An Nasiriyah, there was soldier casualties. A lot of death, a lot of unfortunate circumstances happened, friendly fire, all kinds of accidents and mistake because of the fog of war, because it's so confusing out there trying to make those decisions. And
Mm.
communication wasn't very good. You're talking 2003. We had just
Right.
basic radios, and that's what we communicated off of.
That's part.
So yeah,
That's
it was
post.
crazy.
That's pre GPS, right? So you wouldn't have really
No,
had
we had
like
them.
you had them, but they
We
weren't. I guess they weren't like they
Yes,
are today. Where
yeah, they weren't as involved. No, no, not even close.
oh, that's wild. So
Not even close. So to your point, Sean, actually, when we crossed the breach in Kuwait and they made the lane, the proofing lane to go actually in Iraq. I was the lead
hmm
lead vehicle in a section of an entire battalion getting to An Nasiriyah with a compass and dead reckoning out there in that country with a map, a compass, and dead reckoning, picking a point and saying, okay, there's that building over there, looking at the map, and then taking a compass and orienting it on the map, saying, okay, hey, drive 80 degrees until we get over there near that building. It did that for like 96 miles.
wow,
Yeah, it's insane.
wow, ninety
Mm.
six miles is a long way.
Yeah, I think
That's
Nasiriyah was like 140 from the actual, but things started, so it was very desolate and very desert. But as you went, we got to like that 90 to 100 mile mark, it started becoming more urban and the roads were pretty good. So we started
hmm
taking highways, like I think it was like Highway 3, Highway 6 is other, don't quote me on that, but you could actually use roads now, to travel instead of just you stand out in the middle of the desert like, God damn, man, just drive north.
right, right. You know, I had there was a guy that used to work over there at the gym, and he was a Navy guy. Uh, and um, when I saw him, hold on one second before I ask you this question and whatnot. Waiter, we're talking about my brother's time in his military service. So one of the guys that came in, he wanted to know what we were talking about.
Yeah, I saw his question.
So yeah,
Yeah.
he worked over there at the gym, and then when he went to Iraq and he came back, he was messed up. He was real messed up, and one of the things he said is that he was a gunner, so he was on top of the Humvee with the guns, and
Yeah.
that the kids would come out and they would shoot at him, and
Yep. Yep.
unfortunately he had to shoot back, and these are kids,
Absolutely.
and so he really wasn't doing well, and it wasn't it was by the grace of God that he was able to get himself together. But there's a lot of stories and things like that about that, and so as a veteran and a leader, like, talk about how you had to lead men, and how difficult leadership is in situations like that, because I'm sure that there were men that broke down over stuff like that.
Yeah, it's to your friend's point, he was probably part of a combined anti-armor team more than likely, and those guys were up there at the point, with like vehicles like mine and tanks
hmm
delivering gunfire, and he's that's an absolute fact because numerous people in our task force can attest to. What would happen is the guys and the women were like out there as spotters. So they'd be out there like they're innocent civilians, but they're really spotting. And next thing you know, they go back behind the building. Then RPG is friggin' coming towards your vehicle, and
Wow.
that's tough to deal with because and I know some cases you are actually returning fire on them if you can confirm that target. If you can confirm that they have bad intentions, like you are going to eliminate that target regardless of who or what it is, and it's just going to happen. Uh, I think I always tell people this that the hardest thing sometimes it's okay to well let me say it's not okay. I can reconcile like bad dudes in
Mm-hmm.
killing them, right? Like if I'm walking down the street and some dude is knifing a woman on the sidewalk, I have no problem with pulling out my firearm and shooting him. No
Right.
problem. Because to me, like I can reconcile that. It's like you're doing bad intentions, you're committing a vicious, horrible crime. I'm going to eliminate you. And it's
Right.
the same thing in combat. When somebody's shooting an RPG at you, I'm going to eliminate your ass. When you're a squad and you're out there with an RPK machine gun, you're shooting my vehicles, I'm going to eliminate you. Here's the issue is the innocent folks that are part of that equation. That's the
Mm-hmm.
problem because sometimes it's confusing out there and mass detonation, there's secondary, impacts of that. And next thing you know, there's kids, wives,
Mm-hmm.
husbands who had nothing to do with it. People from the village carrying casualties out there and you're like, shit, man. And that's where I see a lot of guys struggle, myself included.
Right.
Me and my section watched a 7-year-old girl, bleed out and her father, praying next to her. And the mother was killed, unfortunately, by machine gun fire because this bus ran a checkpoint that we were at.
Wow.
And I tell you,
That's
man, that messed with me, man. Like it messed with my lieutenant was really broke up about it, man. He's like, every time I look over there, Staff Sergeant Chabot, all I can see is my daughter. She's at home and she's 5 years old. I'm like, hey, man, I feel for you, dog. Like, hey, we got to shake that shit off because combat ain't over, buddy. We don't know when we're going home. You got to get your head together. And he
right.
did. But you got
Yeah.
to have that hard
Wow.
conversation with him.
Wow. Just like son, I'm because we're civilians, right? I'm a civilian. You see bad things in certain areas in your life or whatever, but there's nothing that can nobody that I know has ever been shot at with an RPG except for people that have been in real combat. Nobody knows about what it's like to get shot at with like a AK-47 and groups of people that are hunting you and trying to kill you. Nobody knows it. So when I sit here and I'm like, wow, that's heavy stuff, bro. And imagine having you have
Well,
to hold that.
you do, man. It weighs heavily on you. But here's the thing, Sean. Like I personally appreciate you taking interest in listening to it because I will tell you, like you said, unfamiliarity. I can't have these conversations with most probably 98% of people in America. Only other veterans can understand, and even certain segments of them can understand. But then
Mm-hmm.
patriots like yourself who have a lot of respect, for veterans and a lot of respect for the military and hold them in high regard. I appreciate you taking interest, in listening to it.
Man, and you know what? God is great, and He's given. I think He's kind of given us people like myself. Like I grew up with it as a military kid, so all my life that's all really I knew. I have family that live in other places, but the military is familiar to me, and to be able to work on base, it's for me, it's a privilege to be able to work
Yeah,
with Marines, work with Army, work with Navy, work with all of these guys. And so when Iraq was first starting to spin up, not the first Desert Storm, but the one later on after the 9/11 and stuff. I knew a lot of guys that I worked with because I was working at Quantico at that time when they were all going over to California then to ship out, right? And
sure.
a lot of them came back and they weren't the same people. Like you
No,
were like, hey
that's
man, what's going on, man? What's going on? Which leads me into veterans. I think that veterans are not getting what they need. Walter Reed is a mess.
yeah. There's definitely some issues. My personal story is I haven't had any major issues with veteran affairs. Matter of fact, I've only had good
Mm-hmm.
experiences. But however, I can't say that's the same for everybody. Everybody has their own story of when of their a lot of it I think is geographic too, right? Like it depends on where you're at. Some VA hospitals are outstanding and they got good care, continuous care, in their communities, and there's others where it's just an assembly line, and you're lucky if you get in, and that's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. So,
But
oh,
Shon,
good.
no, it's okay. But we like veterans, we have to take some ownership of it too, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
got to take ownership of your own health, of your own journey, and you can't just sit back and just be pissed off about unfortunate things and just and just throw penalty flags and everything. Now, if you are indeed embodying what you need to do and you are really trying to get better and stuff, and you keep on running the obstacles and roadblocks, I have a lot of empathy for you. But a lot of the guys that sit on the sideline just bitch and they don't do anything about it, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just not taking ownership of their own shit, and like you
Right.
have to.
Right. Whew, that's deep. Brother, that's deep. And one of the questions from the people watching was in the moment when the gunfire is an immediate threat. You and the surrounding people, what are your thoughts? I guess what he's asking is, what are your thoughts on when it's happening, when it's actually happening to you? What are you
Yeah,
thinking?
man. PID is called positive identification. Traverse turrets, shoot. That is what we are thinking. Period.
Mm,
And then the other thing is you got to look at it. You got to see what kind of gunfire it is too, because when you're in a turret and you have a 50 caliber machine gun and a 40 millimeter chain gun that lobs out grenades,
mm-hmm.
you're going to be okay against most things. But sometimes you need air support and air assets. And that's where the whole thing comes down to training and confusion and kind of having the sets and reps of all the training on what to do. Because if you see a tank out there, you need help. You ain't doing shit with a 50 caliber machine gun. You got to
Right.
get on the radio. You got to get that package dealt up to deal with that threat, right?
Right.
So it's the media is just do everything you can, and thank God, man, thank God we're not out there by ourselves. So I always felt, don't get me wrong, I'd be a bull-faced liar to sit here and tell you that I was not scared being under fire, that my heart wasn't dancing on my tongue, and I was like, oh shit, like it's real now. This is no longer friggin' training at Camp Lejeune, at Fort Pickett, at Fort AP Hill. Like this is fucking Al-Nazariya, Iraq. That's the Saddam Fedayeen, and they fucking want to kill us, right? It's real. But thank
Mm-hmm.
goodness, like you're not out there by yourself. You got other support out there with you. You get your fellow vehicles. You got other Marines. You got ground assets. You got air assets, and you're all working together as a combined, Marine Air Ground Task Force to get rid of all these threats.
So how closely did you ever come in contact with like Army guys, with Navy guys, with Air Force guys, or were you guys just kind of the Marine Corps is over here, the Army's over here, the Air Force is up here, and the Navy dudes are in the bay or in the river
Yeah.
or whatever?
So this is not my part of the Battle of Anazaria. There was another part of the battle where a different company was kind of like a reactionary force to an army. Dude, my Massachusetts shit just came
That's
out.
all
So
right. Let it go.
my,
Let it go.
hey, baby. There was a convoy called like the 507th Maintenance Company that actually got lost, and they took a wrong turn and went into Anazaria by themselves and came under attack. And
Hmm.
I'm sure you've heard of Jessica Lynch.
Yeah, that
She
name
was the
sounds
female.
familiar.
Yeah,
Hmm.
she was taken as a prisoner of war, and the media tried to make her out to be, like she was some kind of hero. Into Jessica's defense, a couple of years later, she kind of, just walked back all that stuff. She's like, "You guys are making me out to be something that I'm not." She's like, "Sure, I was a POW, yes, and this and that, but you're trying to make me out to be like I'm some kind of hero, like I'm not a hero because of it." And like I always respected her for that. Like, she wasn't trying, to embellish, the story. She's like, "Here's what
Right.
happened, and I'm sorry if it's not good enough for your media points or for your political points, but this is just what it is."
Right.
So that
Wow.
another company reacted and actually, got them out of there, and recovered the remains of some of those soldiers that unfortunately were killed because of that mistake that happened very, very early in the war. Other than that, though, during that time when I was in Iraq, pretty much Marines, worked with Marines. When I was in Afghanistan and did 2 tours later there, we did some work with like the ODA, that's like Special Forces Army, and some of the improvised explosive device teams were Air Force teams and stuff. By that time, we'd already been in Afghanistan for a number of years, and it was very well developed, and there was good joint partnership there. But when you're talking about the invasion, it's just just a few units they just blazing through, ridding the world of Saddam Hussein, his
Wow.
evil ways.
So it wasn't like, because when you think about it, right, as a civilian, again, I'm thinking 100,000 troops, 50,000 in a line pushing, right? But I guess it's not like that. It's more
It
1,500
was,
troops.
yeah, I mean, our battalion team was about 1,500. We went in there as a regimental combat team, and there was you know 3 other units that were
Mm-hmm.
with us as well, and a headquarters element. So it isn't like it's just 1,500 going into a city. But I'm saying when you actually get on the ground, one task force is going, to An Nazariya, another task force is going to Baghdad, another task force is, down the south, making sure that, no enemy, comes back up through the breach through Kuwait. Because, we don't know where these folks are hanging out. You don't know if they got these groups of people that are in neighboring countries, they're trying to, climb up your six, and create hate and discontent on you. When you're out there, though, it seems very small. Like outside of my platoon and my company of infantrymen that I lifted, I
Mm-hmm.
felt like we were the only ones there, even though I knew that there was numerous other units that were out there. But
Right.
really, that's just what it was.
Wow. So
Yeah,
so after you come home, like, so you do, how many tours did you do real quick?
yeah. I did two Afghanistan tours and 2 Iraq tours. So the Iraq tours were very early in my time, and then later in my time, I did 2 Afghanistan tours.
Okay. So after
Yeah.
you come back, your transition from coming back home for good, like you're not going out anymore, and then I'm assuming you probably were like a master sergeant by that time.
Yeah, I was first sergeant, sergeant
Oh, your
major
first
by then.
sergeant by
Yeah,
then. Oh
first sergeant,
wow.
sergeant major. Yeah. Hmm.
So how do you transition now? How was your transition out of the military, out of the Marine Corps? Like, do you feel any sort of way at first? Did you feel like you were missing something when you transitioned? Because you got a lot of people that don't know anything about
Yeah.
transitioning out, and the outside world kind of like chews them up.
Yeah, it's at first you're really excited about it because you're like, "Ooh, I don't," you start thinking about little frivolous things like, "Wow, I can grow facial hair now," "Ooh, I don't get my hair cut on Monday morning." "Oh shit, I don't get to iron my uniform no more. I don't got to answer my phone for all these problems that everybody's having," right? And like first few weeks, and I'm only speaking from my experience. I can't speak for anybody else's, so I was like on cloud nine, and then just slowly, just the feelings and the emotions start creeping in. You miss the Brotherhood, you miss the Marines, you miss the sailors, you miss the camaraderie. Um,
Hmm.
at that point, I had been in the military far longer than I wasn't in, you know, and you just get used to that lifestyle, used to that being busy. Every day you put on that uniform, for me, it was like a shot of damn adrenaline of purpose. It's like, man, I have a mission. I got people to take care of. I'm an important part of this organization. I'm well respected. I get to take care of people. I'm solving people's problems, helping them with their problems, helping the unit get better. And now you grab that DD 214, you leave, you're excited, you're with your family, but then just you're like, fuck, man, this, god damn it, I miss it. You're like, I miss it so much, and,
Right.
and I did, and then you start doing, stupid shit like you stop exercising and start drinking fucking too much, and you're just not doing productive shit, and then you slowly can get into that very depressive mind state, and it's almost like I equate it to like you're a player, you're an
Hmm.
important player on a Super Bowl winning team, and then you retire the next year. That's what it's like. And
Mm,
if you talk to any athlete that's been
yeah.
like in that, whether they're a boxer, whether they will say the same thing, that like it's a very humbling pill to swallow when you get out.
Wow. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people who, when they get out, like they just don't know what to do. Like
Yeah.
you got people that don't
Yeah.
know it, and I always tell them like go do federal service because it's not the same, but it's familiar.
Familiar. I think the other thing, Sean, that's important to note is that while you're on active duty, uh, guess what? Guess what? I don't care what branch of service you're in. Guess what? Guess what's expected and guess what's rewarded. Fit for full duty, leading from the front. That's what's valued. That's how you get promoted. That's how you get a reputation of being a go-getter. You don't get a reputation of being a go-getter by sitting on the sidelines, being on light duty. Oh, Chabot's got personal problems, this and that. So now all that time that you spent in your service, you
Mm-hmm.
didn't deal with the shit. So all the things that we talked about earlier, right? Dealing with fog of war, dealing with the trauma, dealing with, these horrific incidents that you experience. People dying in your arms, your fellow Marines, dying in your arms, little girls, dying right in front of you, bleeding out in front of you. You don't deal with that shit
Mm-hmm.
because you're expected to be fit for full duty and perform. So now you get out. In addition to all those other things, now you got to now you got to deal with that shit, and you got to figure out try to balance that within your own life because those demons do not go away. I don't care how much alcohol you drink. I don't care what kind of drugs you do. I don't care how much family time you got. That shit does not go away. It resonates right here. The good part is that there's ways to suppress it, and minimize those impacts. But that's an important friggin' thing. Guys and gals do not deal with the shit.
Right.
And that's why we got fucking suicide problems. And that's why we got a bunch of guys and gals out there who are just like fucking nobody gives a shit about me, and they have all this trauma.
Right. And one my aunt asked, and what up, Lee? She asked, "Are there any services to help with the transition?" Um.
Yes, but it's
Okay.
not it's not enough. It's not enough, right?
Mm,
So the military does a fantastic job of making sure that you are prepared to get a job. They do a great job with that. They're required to write a resume. They will make sure that they give you a free year of LinkedIn. They talk about benefits, and things that you have earned. You
mm-hmm.
still have to do the work behind it, but they'll do a good job of shaping that for you. What they don't talk about is the shit I just told you.
Right.
Nobody,
Mm,
nobody. The only people that you talk to about that is your ride or dies and people that have been there and have similar experiences. But they go away, except for on FaceTime or on a phone. They go away when you get out.
right. Because you don't see them daily. You don't
That's right.
you're not in the unit with them, or you don't run into them on base. And yeah,
Yep.
I can see how that. Yeah, I can see how that would mess with your mind. And you say, well, dang, I don't have anybody. But then they're trapped in their own lives, right? You FaceTime them, hey, brother, man, I just need to talk. Yes, I know that's cool. Can I call you back in like 2 hours? I'm with my wife, or I'm with my kids, or something like that. Where when you were in, you could sit down and take 30 minutes and yeah, come into my office, staff sergeant. You can come sit down, check this out. Let me talk to you for a second. Yeah, so I could see how yeah, I could see how that would work. Wow, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my wife said they have programs setting up for jobs only. Okay, I guess that's at the MCCS side. Can you see the comments
Yeah,
too?
I can. I can. Hey, Samantha. Yes, indeed, indeed, indeed. As a matter of fact, the military now has a program called the Skill Bridge program, which, should you get approved for it, you actually get to chop off a couple weeks of your back duty time and actually go work as like an intern at a company maybe that you desire to work for. So I got a friend that did Amazon Web Services. Another one he became a designer at CarMax. Another guy worked on firearms. He did a skill bridge to FN firearms. Um, Tons of Amazon does it as well. So there's numerous people out there and companies that want to help you. You just merely got to take the step, and do the work behind it to get approved for it. So, like I said, that is something that the military is doing a very, very good job in, and I'm appreciative of that because imagine how tough it would be to transition without that. Imagine if
Yeah.
you didn't have, some income and, you used to making, not that we make a lot of money, but you make enough money to pay your bills and be comfortable in the military. And then all of a sudden you get out, you either get out or you retire, and now your income is cut by like 2/3. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
shit, I just got to go start applying. So at least now they have some very good programs and some good tools that are offered to service members.
Mm.
It's the mental aspect, brother. It's the mental, emotional aspect that just it hasn't been touched. And I've tried, to get in front of some people up there at Eighth and I. Um, my close friend is the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps right now, Carlos Ruiz. I've been trying to hit him up, to get a blueprint in front of him of how veterans in communities can serve as like mentors within their communities to guys that are either retiring or they are getting out. So now, if they go back to say, let's say they go back to Jonesboro, Arkansas, which my friend did, and he didn't have nobody back there, no familiarity, and unfortunately he started doing things he wasn't supposed to do. But imagine if in Jonesboro, Arkansas, there was a retired lieutenant colonel or a retired master sergeant there, and he linked up with him. Now he doesn't feel like he's by himself.
Oh, I see.
He's
I
got a
see.
brother or
Yeah.
sister there now that he can talk to or lean on. We don't do that in the Marine Corps. We don't really have like a community program after you get out, and we
Mm.
should. And I know there's a way we can do it. I just need the right people to listen.
Wow.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of man. That's just deep. Cause like again, because most of the people, well, a lot of people on my Facebook page, a lot of my friends are from friends from high school that I knew, or I knew them traveling throughout the world with my parents. So a lot of them are either in the Army, Air Force, or they were like me. They just didn't go in and their parents served, but a lot of them on there. So a lot of them hear that when they hear that, they might need those same services. Do you know what I
Hands
mean?
down.
They might need that, and that's why it's so important for you to be here, because people just don't know, and regular civilians need to know. They can't help if they don't know. They can't put together, because it's easy to say, yeah, you know what, you're a veteran, and we appreciate you. But do you really appreciate you? Do As civilians, we have zero idea what it's like, except for when we
Yeah.
watch like movies that Hollywood puts together. And
Right.
speak on that real quick. How accurate are some movies? Is some of it just fluff, or is it a lot of it, or is it real? Pretty accurate what you see on TV.
Yeah. I tell people this that if the 27 years and change that I served in the Marines, that 9% of that was spent in combat, right? And out of that 9% of time,
Mm-hmm.
actually like being under duress and under fire, probably less than 3% of that. Um,
Okay.
what it's an important point because a lot of people think combat is indeed just what I talked about earlier, and it is. Don't get me wrong, it is about that, but there's a lot of downtime, and it's not all the same. Just because you went to Iraq or Afghanistan doesn't mean that you did kinetic things. It doesn't mean that you're out there pursuing, punishing, and killing the enemy. You may have been sitting at a base the whole time doing logistics, and that's awesome. You may have been doing admin, you may have been working at the chow hall, and it's
Mm-hmm.
admirable. It's all important, to support the warfighter who's out there getting into the battle. It's all important, but there is a difference in experiences. So when I see these movies, a lot of times I just see that they're very embellished. They're a
Right.
little bit they're a little bit more than probably what they were. But I think a lot of times movies that I've seen, and forgive me, I'm not I don't, and there's a reason why I don't watch a lot of it because it definitely ignites some emotions, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Um, it does, like it triggers some emotions, and I'm not the dude out there who acts weird about this stuff, but if I can control it, I will. But I have seen a couple movies about like IEDs and stuff, and those are pretty damn accurate. Those are really accurate as
Mm.
far as like the techniques that they use of planting the IEDs, the way they do it, what happens after an IED detonation, and the amount of trauma that it inflicts upon service members. That shit's pretty freaking real, man.
Oh, wow, that's so crazy. Cause my mom, so she worked at Syscom years ago, and her part of one of her jobs when she was there was she was to buy the armor that went underneath the plates that went underneath the Humvees to try to protect the people.
Yeah. Yep.
So that was part of her job. Well, one of her jobs there, that she was the buyer. So she would buy, and she'd be like, "Wait a minute, this stuff ain't working. We need better stuff." Definitely. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's so good. That's so good. Um, so I wanted to get into like a rapid fire round, something really, really quick, something kind of fun. Ask you a couple of questions, like shoot them at you real quick, and
All
have
right,
you
let's do it.
answer them as quick as you can, and you know what I'm saying, and then we'll end it in a few minutes. But So I wanted to ask you, rifle or pistol? If you had to choose
Combat or
one,
garrison? Combat
e-
or garrison?
either or.
Co- Combat, rifle, fun, garrison, pistol, all day.
All right. Favorite MRE?
Oh, definitely the buffalo chicken.
They have buffalo chicken.
Yeah, definitely that one. Hell yeah.
That's what's up. Uh, the best, the baddest Marine you ever served with. It's talking about like
Man,
this dude was like the top notch of the top notch.
bro, I'm gonna say the guys that I directly served alongside in Al-Nasri, Iraq, were the baddest motherfuckers I ever served with. I wish I could give you one name, but I can't because collectively, man, I had to tell, and not to deviate from your rapid fire, but I had to tell one of my crewmen who I thought was a little meek and mild, that wasn't sure how he was going to perform, in
Mm,
combat, because he's a kind of reserved guy. I had to go over to him and friggin' hit him on the head with a damn axe handle, which is like a wooden handle.
right.
His name was Jacob Frick. I said, Frick, stop fucking shooting when I tell you to stop fucking shooting. I was like, stop fucking. That dude was aggressive as hell, man. He's awesome fucking dude. All my kids are awesome. Martin, Fritz, love him. Revis, Moore, Ingerson, Justin LeHue, Navy Cross Sipping. All them dudes were fucking amazing. Love them.
That's what's up. A moment that you'll never forget. Let's make it a good moment.
A good moment I'll never forget. Man, for getting awarded the Bronze Star of Valor, hands down, that was unfortunately, people probably have to lose their lives to get a recognition like that, and I would give it back in a second for any one of them to be home with their families. But for a kid who came from dog shit,
Mm-hmm.
and had a very turbulent upbringing, to receive that kind of recognition when everybody told me I wouldn't be shit in life, that was like the biggest fuck you I could ever give anybody.
Let's go. And the last one, the word freedom. In one word for you, what would it mean to you?
Um, Military. It's the only thing that stands between us, and not having, all having swastikas branded here in our arms,
Mm,
to be extreme about it. But that's the only thing that has stopped, Imperial Japan and Nazi Germany, for all of us not having the way of life that we have. So we collectively should damn appreciate it. A lot of times we just want to throw penalty flags at each other, and just, and be divisive, create, sides and stuff. But I'll tell you, man, doing shit like this, Sean, hanging out at bowling alleys and walking through your neighborhoods, you will find out real quick we have a lot more in common than we fucking don't. So we need to
that's right.
stop with all the dumb shit.
Mm, Mark, you're the man, sir. Given that you are the man, I can't wait to see you. I don't think we're bowling. We're bowling this weekend, so I guess we'll see you
I'll be
then.
there. I'll be
Yeah,
there.
definitely. I know we didn't do it last weekend. It was like a break, but we'll see you there, man. I appreciate you coming on. Chat, is there any questions for the brother that you have out there? I know a lot of them wanted to thank you for your service and thank you for bringing awareness to the mental part of it and whatnot. And yeah, man, you're just an awesome dude, bro. I mean,
Thanks, man.
I have tremendous respect for you before. I think we hit it off when we first met, and just to hear your story and going through. And before I say this, um, please go and watch his YouTube channel. You want to hear some amazing stuff, bro? Y'all need to go and check out this man's YouTube channel and see some of the people he has on here. They had a guy that ejected
Yep.
going supersonic, bro.
Yep.
See,
695 miles per hour, man. See, it's stories like that that are buried in the media cycle that need to be told. That's the
mm-hmm,
reason why I do, what I do. And I'm not speaking for you, but I think that's part of the reason why you do what you need to do.
that's right.
It's dominated by celebrity worship in Hollywood, and politics and things like that. But I tell you, man, like your story is just as inspiring as anybody else's, and your viewers, etc. So the more that we can just find normal people out there have done awesome, amazing shit with their lives and advertise it, yeah, I love doing it.
That's what's up, man. I appreciate it. Again, left, right, left. Keep Moving podcast.
Yep,
Brother
on
Mark is
YouTube.
there.
Can't miss it.
Can't miss it. Go on YouTube, get it, watch the videos, like the videos, watch them through, like it. Let's get his likes up. Let's get his viewership up. You know what I'm saying? Because a brother like himself needs to be out there for everybody to see. He should be celebrated, and all service members should be celebrated. So if you are a veteran, I'm talking to you, and if you are a person who just loves the military, I'm talking to you. That's what's up. It's called Left, Right, Left, Keep Moving
Podcast. So
podcast.
just type in left, right, left podcast on YouTube, and you can't miss it. I'm the only one out there.
Matter
Left,
of
right,
fact, I
left
am going to
podcast.
drop it into the chat. I'm gonna drop it
Sean,
real
do you
quick.
mind if I do a quick shout out real quick?
Oh, for sure, man, brother. Take the mic. Do you?
All right, so I'd like to give a biggest shout out to my wife Tammy. We've been married for almost 24 years, so she has a lengthy service alongside me, and I couldn't do what I do without her. Uh, and I greatly appreciate her. And to my amazing 20-year-old son Grant, he's the only one we got. He's on the spectrum, but he is the brightest light everywhere he goes, man. He's like the best little dude. So shout out to you, Grant, and then to all my brothers and sisters out there in uniform and those of you who have served. Greatly appreciate you. I'm gonna have one ask for you here before we conclude. Is
Mm-hmm.
you don't quit. First off, do not quit, and because somebody out there does care about you and somebody is interested and doesn't want you to quit as well. Do not effing quit. And the second thing is the things that you learned in the military, leadership and things like that, you just don't flush them down the toilet once you depart the military. So continue to be a leader out there in the community. Keep yourself inspired. I understand there's some fucking days I don't want to get out of bed and I feel like absolute shit and just things just pile up on me too. And I get it. But then we just got to burrow ourselves up out and we got to remind ourselves that veterans should be leaders in this country. They need to be leaders in this country. So step the hell up, man.
Wow. I can't even say anything else. You heard it here first, man. That's what that's what happens when the big dog is talking to you. Like when the big dog is talking, that's what it's like. Bro, you when I work on base back in the day, this is before that I think and I know I'm supposed to end it, but I gotta say this. When I was
No, do
working
it,
on
man.
base first, first started getting exposed to the Marine Corps, right? This is probably back in like 2000, 2001. And sergeant majors were like big dogs. Like if you looked at somebody's shirt and you saw that, you was like, yo, son is a big dog. Like, and that was before when you used to be able to run up on somebody that's wearing PT gear and they're in the daggone exchange. You know how many times I saw, Devil Dog, what are you doing in here? Get down, get up, go, move, stop. No, get down, get up, get up. Oh my goodness. So when the big dog is speaking, you need to know that that's what that is right there.
Yeah.
That's from the heart. That's from somebody that really did something. Because the Marine Corps is not a cakewalk. I tell
No,
anybody,
no.
it's not a cakewalk. I seen them in
Mm-mm.
them little shorts running in the snow, in the sleet, in the rain, from um the front gate or the back gate all the way to Larson's gym when it used to be on top of the
Yeah, I
hill
remember
by the
that.
helicopter. Bro,
Yep, yep.
that's a long run.
That is
In
a
the
long run.
snow, in the rain with the sleet,
Yeah.
in the little shorts and they would fold their hands inside of their sweatshirts and they'd be running. It's like, it's not a cakewalk. So you gotta have,
It's a long arduous journey for sure, and there's nothing free and nothing easy about serving the Marine Corps for that amount of time. But I'll tell you, it's even despite a lot of the trauma and the excessive baggage that you carry around. I'm very proud to have been a Marine, to serve as long as I did. It was amazing.
and I'm proud to know you, brother,
Proud to
for
know you,
sure.
man. I appreciate what you do.
Well, no doubt. You're a great man, a great gentleman, and your son Grant is a great dude. He be dapping
That's
me
the
up and
best,
all
man.
that, man.
Man,
He's a cool guy. So you
yeah,
guys
he's the
heard it
best.
here first. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna try to have more of him come on later on in the year, and let's check back with him if you're down with that. And just keep the stuff rolling. So if you're down with that, I'd love to have you back.
I
Left,
support
right,
my friend.
left.
I'll always support my friend Shon. Anytime you need me, man, you just send the word. I got you. You
Oh,
know
that's
that.
what's up, my brother. Man, it means a lot to me. Everybody out there, again, go back, like, subscribe, touch every video in there, and press the like button. I know some of you have already said that you went over there and started doing it. So let's go. We're gonna keep it moving just like he does, and that's what's up. Hold on. One of my cousins came in late. He said, "Take me to the average person. How hard is it for me to operate?" He wants to know. He wants to know if you can take an average person and turn them into like a Marine. How long would it take you to turn
Brother.
somebody
So
like the average guy into a Marine?
I promise I'll answer this for you as quick as possible because I know that you got things to do. Yes, so if you think that I was exceptional and ordinary going to recruit training in 1993, you'd be sadly mistaken. Like I said earlier, I was a broke up friggin' dude, all jacked up, and in 13 friggin' weeks, they had me in much better condition and much better shape. Not just physical, but mentally, they just had me very, very sharp. So recruit training is 13 weeks long, and we take slobs and turn them into something after 13 weeks.
13 weeks. You heard it. You could be an opera now. Would that just be like a basic Marine? That's not like a
That's basic.
tier
That's basic
one.
stuff.
That's not like a tier one guy. But
No,
that's
it's
just
just
like a basic
that's
Marine. How long do you think it would take for the average person to become a tier one guy?
like to be like a top 10% guy.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it's a tough question to answer because there's different metrics for that. Like some people value physical fitness, some people value job proficiency, etc. But like the whole Marine concept, I mean, I never felt like I had it figured out entirely till I had about 6 years in the Marine Corps. And I'm like,
Okay.
light bulb went on. I was like, oh man, like I'm starting to get it now. I'm starting to understand. I'm starting to mature. I'm starting to lead better. I'm starting to understand fairness, and divvy out, things, and handle disputes, and be able, to the right button to push with the right person to get them to be better. So
Mm-hmm.
it takes a while to get that skill. Yeah.
So
And what you
dope.
talked about earlier, like you were like talking the sledgehammer at the PX.
Right,
Like,
right.
yeah, you gotta have the sledgehammer, but you only use the sledgehammer when you really need to. Sometimes you gotta get out the Phillips head screwdriver. Sometimes you gotta pet them a little. Sometimes you gotta bring them in and let them vent. You
Right,
know, sometimes you gotta let them talk shit.
right,
The whole
right.
goal is to try to reach them and make them better.
Make them a better person. That's
That's
what's
it.
up. Yo, we are out of time. I appreciate you coming on again. Salute,
Thank you, Shon. Salute. Good
salute.
to
You
see
know
you,
what I'm
man. I
saying?
love you.
I love you too, bro. You're
All
a
right.
great guy. I mean, we have some great conversations outside of this, so it's always good. We always have a good time, so that's what's up. Everybody, again, like, subscribe, go push the button on that man's podcast. Left, right, left. Keep moving. The link is in the chat. Go ahead and do it. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you subscribe and let's show this gentleman some love. Peace, love, and hope. I'm Sean Black, Donna Mac. Master Guns. Oh, nope. Sergeant Major. I almost took you down too much. I almost took you down too far.
Oh, man. Master Gunnies are the best too. Keep it enlisted, baby. You
Yeah,
good.
that's right. Keep it enlisted. That's
All
right.
right,
Peace,
man.
love, and whole, everybody. Peace.